welcome to this episode of This Week on the Battlefield, the show where we cover news, updates, the community, and so much more all around the Battlefield franchise. In today's episode then, we have the first details on what is to likely be next week's patch, some news on promised features and skins still remaining to be released in the second chapter of Tides of War, Lightning Strikes, and of course plenty of content to talk about that was released this week, as well as some community news centered all around what truly makes a Battlefield game, and possibly what developers should be focusing on in the Battlefield franchise over other possible additions and features. Lastly, of course, as per usual, some brilliant only in Battlefield moments for you guys to enjoy. Starting off with the news section, however, as we always do. In terms of next week's patch then, few details have been released so far. What we do know is that this is likely going to be a little bit of a smaller patch with only 2 confirmed fixes so far, one being the parrot camera fix, that is the view that you get when debating on whether or not to spawn one of your squad mates, and the second, the end of round company coin fix, meaning that the end of round screen from next patch onwards will correctly be displaying the amount of company coins you'll be getting each round. In further news, but not necessarily related to next week's patch, we do know that squad reinforcements, the promised sector artillery strike and smoke barrage, are going to be coming in early March. Also relatively soon, but not yet confirmed, we should be getting the elite skins that were teased in the Chapter 2 trailer sometime soon, and those will be only available sadly through the purchase of Battlefield currency. Then we know that DICE is currently looking into possibly bringing a user-created server hardcore mode. Whether or not this constitutes RSP, or how exactly this is going to look like, and whether even DICE decides to realize it is yet to be confirmed, but at least developers are starting to talk about it. And lastly then, for those of you interested in the DICE Friends nominations, those are going to be coming up and available between the 26th of February and the 5th of March. In terms of this week's content then, we got the Battle of Hanut operation, covering of course Arras and Panzerstorm, and bringing a new grand operation to Battlefield 5. Also, for those of you who didn't manage to unlock the STUG or Stug tank destroyer for the German faction last week, it will be available for a mere 100 company coins for a limited period of time, according to the developers, roughly around a week. For those of you who are tank fans, you will also be able to unlock the Valentine Archer tank this week by completing, of course, the weekly challenge. Besides the new content then, we also got a back-end update this week to decouple co-op and multiplayer, meaning that kills and deaths will no longer influence your KD of multiplayer when, of course, they're counted in co-op mode. However, assignments can still be completed as of now in co-op mode, which seems to suggest that this is by design, at least as of now. Lastly then, we've got some interesting testing going on around the matchmaking process according to DICE. What I'm hopeful for is not necessarily only that it fixes issues with matchmaking, but also improves the team balancer when joining a new server. In terms of community news then, as the news section, things are a little bit shorter than usual here because this week was a little bit quiet over on the Battlefield. What we did of course have was the big discussion around what makes a true Battlefield game and what DICE should be focusing on in future iterations of the Battlefield franchise, or should have been focusing on for Battlefield 5. Instead of having a plethora of different features and game modes, maybe focusing on strictly the multiplayer experience and delivering more content for that. This discussion has of course come up because of the relatively lackluster state in which Combined Arms has released, especially when compared to what was promised and teased regarding this mode when it was first announced. You of course are entitled to your own opinions. If you want to hear anybody else's, however, be that mine, Westie's, or JackFrags, all of which have put out decent videos on the topic, I'll have them linked down below in the description or up above in the card for you to enjoy. Moving on, of course, to our only in Battlefield moments, and starting off with a little bit of an unusual clip, and that's because there is no epic tank shot or Panzerfaust shot across the map to take out a bomber. There's also no 10 or 20 kill streak behind here. Actually, there's no kills at all, but a simply brilliant playing the objective clip, in this case by Timmerstone, who managed to provide his entire team, who really don't seem to be getting very close to taking out this objective on the new grand operations, with a spawn point behind enemy lines. And not only for his squad here, thanks to his use of one of the transport vehicles, the entire team can spawn here, and numerous players do, allowing them to take the objective, and by extension, the entire sector. The second clip we have is by a regular on the show, Always Baked Never Fried, a known plane menace in this week's episode, showing us that he doesn't even need Panzerfausts or Piats to take out planes. He can do it with really whatever he gets his hands on. And lastly, we have a little bit of a funny clip, this one by Heavy Octane, who seems not to quite have gotten the memo on last week's patch changes regarding rifle grenades, much to his own fatal detriment. But with that coming to the end of this week's episode then, if you enjoyed the show, found it interesting or entertaining, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share, and of course hit me up with your feedback, suggestions, and opinions down below in the comments or over on Twitter. With that being said, however, I'd like to thank you very much for watching, and hope to see you in the next episode of This Week on the Battlefield.